Born in Indianapolis in 1922, Kurt Vonnegut joined the army shortly after America's entry to World War II. He was captured by the Germans after the Battle of the Bulge and interned at Dresden, where he experienced the Allied bombing that levelled the city and which formed the basis for his sixth novel and first bestseller, the 1969 Slaughterhouse-Five. He died in New York City in 2007 at the age of 84. Slaughterhouse-Five is in many ways typical of his output. It's humorous, it contains elements of science fiction, and it's difficult to categorise. Critics have justifiably tended to attach the label postmodern to all his fiction, but that does make the central claim often made on Slaughterhouse-Five's behalf that it's an anti-war novel harder to sustain. On the surface, it begins conventionally enough. The first chapter appears to be about an aging Vonnegut having tried but failed to write a book about Dresden. He gets together with an old wartime buddy and vows not to write a novel that will glorify war. He agrees with his buddy's wife that they were little more than children during their time in the army. Hence the novel's subtitle, The Children's Crusade, A Duty Dance with Death. The novel then introduces the protagonist, Billy Pilgrim, who is written about in the third person, although his wartime experience does in most respects resemble Vonnegut's. He's captured by the Germans, he's interned at Dresden, and he experiences the Allied bombardment. He's imprisoned throughout in a literal slaughterhouse, Schlachthof, which is underground and hence shielded from the firebombers. When he and his fellow prisoners finally emerge, the city's been reduced to rubble. The novel also details Billy's life after World War II, up to and including his own death. Billy comes to believe he's been abducted by a race of aliens called the Tralfamadorians, who experience reality in 4 dimensions and who see time and free will as illusions. Billy zips temporarily backwards and forwards to re-experience moments of his own life, often during times of stress. His attitude to life quickly becomes one of fatalistic resignation. Given that, and the novel's postmodern status, to what extent is it accurate to describe it as an anti-war novel? Chapter 1's explicit announcement of it as such, together with Vonnegut's reputation as a difficult-to-categorise author, hence his countercultural appeal, plus a society-wide opposition to the Vietnam War when it was first published, probably all helped bolster that claim. Whether or not it's justified is another matter. I'm not sure it is. Firstly, there's the seriousness with which the Tralfamadorian perspective's taken. If time is unreal in their sense, then Dresden is a necessary feature of the universe. If something couldn't have been otherwise, then it can't be morally wrong. Okay, but maybe Billy Pilgrim's mentally ill. So in that case, why isn't there more emphasis on the horrific suffering Dresden involved? In Slaughterhouse-Five, the real horror takes place entirely out of view. Finally, there's the problem of scale. Vonnegut claims that the number of those killed at Dresden far exceeded 100,000. In fact, the true figure was closer to 25,000. It was an honest, genuine mistake on his part, but confronted with it later, he's said to have retorted, "What does it matter?" It's not as bad a reply as it might appear. Perhaps beyond a certain obscene level, numbers become irrelevant. But then he does keep telling the reader that Dresden was worse than Hiroshima. In fact, the figures for Hiroshima, even on the most optimistic account, are 3 times worse. Does that matter? Well, it might if you live in Hiroshima. The deeper question concerns whether it's even possible to write an anti-war novel, as opposed to one that simply depicts the horror of war. Such a novel would have to say that one should never go to war, not even in self-defense or the defense of one's loved ones, not even when the enemy can be easily vanquished, not even to prevent genocide. But in any case, novels don't work like that. If they're any good, they always invite several different, sometimes even conflicting interpretations. Slaughterhouse-Five is no exception. The most obvious alternative to it being an anti-war novel is that it's really a sympathetic presentation of the Tralfamadorian philosophy, which bears some resemblance to Stoicism. Never mind about putting it alongside All Quiet on the Western Front and Catch-22. Its closest companion may be Marcus Aurelius's Meditations.